Welcome to my September 15th video update. Running out of storage space on my iPhone is my biggest issue, even though I have 32 gigabytes of space. But one of the main ways I've dealt with it is with that little iXpand, that SanDisk iXpand drive that I have, and that works perfectly. But it would be nice to have more space on the phone itself. So whenever I start to video something, I typically will take a look at the space I have remaining, and it used to be typically from 7 to 9 gigabytes. Sometimes I was able to eke out 11 gigabytes but recently I've noticed that it's really more been like 5 to 6 gigabytes available. And you know, even though I realize there are a lot of photos in my camera roll, it's not really in my camera roll, they're shared photos, and even though those are scaled down by Apple, it still takes up space. And so I started looking at, on an iPhone at least, you can go into settings and go to the general settings, storage, and it will show you how much space you have on your iPhone that's being used and how much is available. And then you can click on manage and it'll show you how much each app on your iPhone is taking up, how much space each app is taking up. And so I've done that. And the culprits typically are Lightroom Mobile that I have on my app because of the collections that I'm syncing from my desktop to my iOS devices into the cloud. The Photos app, naturally. I have an app called Downcast, which is a podcast listening app. So it downloads the recent podcasts, and if I away, they start to build up and take space. So that oftentimes is a gigabyte or more. Then I noticed that LumaFusion actually was getting bulkier. Now what you can do is click on the name of an app, and it will show you how much of the total, let's say that 600 megabytes is being used by LumaFusion. And LumaFusion, the app, at the top of the screen, it'll show you just how big that app is. And it may only be 97 megabytes or maybe 110 megabytes, but it's taking up 600 and some megabytes because of the data that it's collecting. Well, I don't know what data was in LumaFusion beyond just what came with it. And so as you look at these different applications that you have on your iPhone, you realize that they do store things. And in the case of LumaFusion, it was storing files that I had imported. Makes sense. So, and there were some of those files that I really wasn't using anymore, so I just deleted them, and you can do that fairly easily. And Downcast, with the podcasts, I went back through those and deleted some of the podcasts that I knew I never was going to listen to, that maybe they were old or just topics that I wasn't interested in, and that reduced that number quite a bit. So those were two easy ones. Photos always is an easy one. If you take things off your phone, photos and videos, then that will free up space. Lightroom, I made sure that I was only syncing those collections in Lightroom that I really wanted access to on my phone. I didn't want to get rid of Lightroom Mobile because it's kind of a cool app, and you can use it as a camera even and shoot raw files with it. So those apps I've just mentioned and ones like them, it's kind of obvious well, it was obvious after I realized that they're keeping data in them, and so therefore they're taking up more space, and it grows. But other ones like Filmic Pro, I've set my Filmic Pro now so that it doesn't save the files internally to Filmic Pro, but rather out to my camera roll. And likewise with ProCamera. ProCamera will save files in its own library, and then you can export the ones you really want to keep into your camera roll. And that's what I used to always do. The idea being that it wasn't filling up my camera roll, which is being synced to the cloud with images that I really wasn't sure I wanted to keep. So I decided, well, that's sort of silly, so I stopped doing that. So I have now that ProCamera saves files right to the camera roll, and therefore they're no longer in ProCamera. And the same with Filmic Pro. But again, I looked at the size of Filmic Pro, which was less than 100 megabytes, and yet it was taking up 600 and some megabytes of space. It didn't make any sense. So what I tried was, since I knew that Filmic Pro didn't have anything that I was going to lose, I had one preset that was easy to redo if I needed to. I deleted the app, so this is an approach you might take. I deleted the Filmic Pro app, I cleared all the screens, restarted my iPhone to make sure that it cleared its memory, and downloaded Filmic Pro again. And what do you know? it's 74 megabytes. And just by adding one preset, I think it went to 79 megabytes. So I saved 500 and some megabytes just by doing that. So if you're really cramped for space on your smartphone, make sure you evaluate what your different apps are storing and see which ones perhaps you can, which things that they're storing you can get rid of. Okay, so hopefully that kind of sharing that experience with you, which is kind of a tip, will be useful to you, and I'll hope that it helps you save more space on your iPhone or your Android phone. I know that when I buy my next phone, it's going to have a lot more storage than 32 gigabytes. Thanks very much for checking in, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week.